guys, my name is Cammie and I'm into the kitchen and I'm going to show you how to can pink-eyed purple hull peas. So here you see that we got a good amount of pink-eyed purple hull peas. These right here have been frozen and I put them into a gallon bag into the freezer until I was ready to can these. My first step I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this sink right here, which I've already done, and I fill it up with some water. My next step is this. So as you look into this sink right here, you'll see there's like a film. It looks dirty right now, but it's just from the peas. But there's a film that comes off of these peas that's into the water. And it kind of looks gross. But what I do is I dump these peas in here. And now I do like this to get that film off. And all I'm doing is washing these peas. I'm getting that film off. And then I'm going to take them. And I'm going to continue this process. It's a little tedious process. But when you're using a pea sheller, then you're going to have this film. So I'll continue with this right here. And then I'll change this water out. Dump it, release it. And then turn around, fill it up with clean water. Clean the sink out. Fill it up with clean water, take these peas, put them back in here, and continue this process until I stop seeing all this film, this crud that comes off of the peas. So now I'm draining it out. I just want to show you all this crud that's slowly going down. I got my little strainer in there. But you can see what comes off of the peas. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a shelling. A little shell, covering that's over the peas. So now we have all our pink-eyed purple hull peas washed and they're ready to go into the jars. Now, once you get them canned, if you have any of that film on top of it, you can just take a spoon and scoop it off when you open your jar up. Now, if you're shelled by hand, you're not going to have that. That's just with the sheller. It kind of brushes that little shelling off of there. And so it wasn't too bad washing them up. It was just a little bit more time. So we're getting ready to can. And over here, I've got everything ready. I have a pot that's got jars into it. The water is heating up. And we got our lids and our rings in this pot right here. And it's heating up. I've got my canner here. I've got 2.5 quarts of water. I put 3 tablespoons of vinegar in my water because I'm on well water, and that keeps the mineral deposits off of the jars. On this side, I've got my pink-eyed purple hull peas here. I have my vinegar because that's what I use to wipe my lids off. I got my paper towel here. I got my salt. I've got my funnel here, and I've got my debubbler here. So we're going to be raw packing. You can hot pack or you can raw pack. Hot pack, you got to get your jars hot and everything ready just like this. But you're going to take your pink-eyed purple hulls and you're going to put them in a pot and you're going to blanch them for 3 minutes. Raw packing, you get everything ready like this, but you're just going to take the pink-eyed purple hulls and you're going to put them in the jar and you're going to pour hot water over the pink-eyed purple hulls. The same with if you do hot packing. You're still going to have to put hot liquid, hot water over into your jars after you fill your jars up. Now, I'm going to be using pints, and you can use quarts. So pints, I'm going to be using a half a teaspoon of canning salt. With quarts, you're going to be using 1 teaspoon of canning salt, or you can use plain salt. Plain salt, not iodine salt, just plain salt, because if you don't, it can turn your mixture, your water, your beans on the outside. When you look at it, it will look like it's colored. But the beans will also change colors, but I prefer to use canning salt or plain salt. So let's get to the next step. Okay, so we got our hot jar. You're going to put a half a teaspoon of salt in there, canning salt, or you can use plain salt. Then we're going to fill our jar up. We're not going to fill it completely up. We're going to fill it about right there. Then we're going to get our hot water. And we're going to fill it to that first ridge. Then we're going to debubble. Debubbling takes the air out. There's air pockets in there. And some vegetables more than others. But I like to debubble real good. Get those air pockets out. Because when this is processing, air is going to be coming out. And so I want all the air to come out. Some of the liquid will come out, but I want all this air out. So then I'll look down to see if that water level has fell down. And it's about perfect. So my next step is I'm going to take and wipe my lid off. This keeps all the salt or food particles from on the top. And then we'll get our ring and our lid. And we're going to put it on. And we're going to, now some say finger tight. When I started canning, that's all I heard, finger tight, finger tight. Well, what is finger tight? Because everybody's strength is differently, and I always question it. But my grandmother's canning cookbooks says firmly tight. Now that doesn't mean to over tight. My hands doesn't have the strength as most people's do, but I got it firmly tight. So you don't want to over tighten, but you do want to kind of firmly tight. If you don't feel good about that, then take your fingers and tighten. Okay, let's get this in the canner. I don't heat my rings and my lids up too hot. And the reason of that is because I got a rubber gasket that's sitting in that lid. And all I need is that I don't need it boiling hot. So I'm going to put the salt in, half a teaspoon. Okay, get our funnel, get our pink eye purple holes. Not completely fill it to the top. You need room, space for the top. And we're going to fill it right there. We're going to get our hot water. That's what I use. I look down to see where the water level is, and then I'm going to debubble. If you get too much liquid in your jar, just take a spoon and scoop some of it out. A lot of times when you are debubbling, if you debubble real good, this liquid will go down. And I always try to debubble real good. And most of the time it'll go down with just a smidge. Okay, we're looking good. So then we're going to take our vinegar and our paper towel here, and we're going to wipe this lid off, this ring off, or this lid right here. Make sure there's no salt, there's no food particles on there, and then we're going to get our ring in our lid, put it on, as I say, firmly tight. And then we're going to take this and put it in the canning jar. Now, if I got my rings and my lids too hot or just really hot, I always make sure I pick that jar up with this. But I don't get them scalding hot. I get them hot, but I don't get them scalding hot. So now I'm going to continue filling these jars, and I'll take you to the next process. So far, I've got 8 pints into my canner. That means I cannot put any more jars down in there. What I'm going to do is put my canning top here. And then I can place my jars on top of the rest of the jars. Okay, I have my canner turned on high. You see the steam coming out. I have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pints in there. So I'll put my lid on. I'm using a Presto today. Presto is really easy to use. And I like to turn my canner to where I can see this dial. This is very important to watch this dial. Now what we're going to do, this is going to build pressure here, and it's going to start venting right here. Matter of fact, I can already feel it because I use hot water. I got hot water in there. I got hot water in my jars. My jars are hot, so it won't take very long. So when I start seeing the steam coming out, I'm going to turn my timer on for 10 minutes. When the timer goes off, then I'm going to put my weight on here, and then I'm going to set my time of processing, how long I will time it. Now, when I tell you that the old cookbooks of my grandmother's, they was USDA. I think that USDA, my theory is that USDA changed it because everybody's hand strength is different. So they went to finger tighten because everybody's hand strength is different. So you got to know your strength. You just got to make sure you don't over tighten it. And you know, if you're uncomfortable with it, then do the finger tighten until it stops. Get a good little, you know, not too tight, but just, you know, twist stops and a little firm tight finger tight. Okay, our canner is steaming here. It's venting out. We also see this little vent right here is up. So now it's time to put the weight on. So let me grab the weight. This is 10 pounds of pressure. And what we're going to do, this is where we watch it very carefully, because we got a gauge right here, and it's going to climb up to 10 pounds of pressure. And most of the time it doesn't take very long because all the liquids in there is hot. Everything's hot. So we're going to watch this very, very carefully, the 10 pounds of pressure. Mind you, I still got this stove on high, so it's building pressure at the moment. When this reaches 10 pounds of pressure, I'm going to turn my dial on my stove down. I find out it depends on the product that's on the inside. Sometimes I can have it on 6, sometimes 5, sometimes 4. It just depends on what's going on the inside. So it's on high. When it's reached 10 pounds of pressure, then I'm going to start my timing of processing. Quarts will go for 40 minutes. Pints will go for 35 minutes. So once it's reached 10 pounds of pressure, then I'm going to turn this down. And I'll probably turn it down around 6.5, somewhere around there, and I'll watch it. If I see it still climbing, I'll cut it down to 6. If I see it still climbing a little bit, just a little bit, now I'm watching it very closely, I'll cut it down to 5. And I'll just keep watching it. But at the same time, you can cut your canner down and it'll go down too much. And you don't want to get past the 10 mark because that means you got to start all over. So this is very crucial at this time period to watch this canner and make sure that this canner stays at 10 pounds of pressure. Now, sometimes it might rise up to 11. I wouldn't be alarmed about that because once again, my experience is that it depends on what product is on the inside. Sometimes I try to get it to stay at 10 pounds of pressure, and it would not. It would stay at 11 pounds of pressure, and it was fine. You know, I just leave it like that. I just make sure it doesn't keep climbing. I make sure it doesn't fall below 10 pounds of pressure. There's times that I have to cut this, I have to keep messing with this dial back here on my stove and regulate my heat to get it to, you know, to regulate. Once this canner gets regulated, which usually takes, I find out, I watch it really, I watch it closely the whole time because it can start climbing through the process of doing the process of your jars. But once I get it about 10 minutes, most of the time it'll stay at that pressure. Once again, it seems like it depends on what I'm processing, and then sometimes it'll start climbing up, and that means I have to go over here and cut it down. I'll cut it down just a little bit. Every time it's just a little bit, either a little bit up or a little bit down. Okay, our canner has reached 10 pounds of pressure. This is where you want to start your timing. So quarts, 40 minutes, pints, 35 minutes. And you still stand here and watch it because it can go up, it can go down. It's very crucial whenever you put this weight on to always watch this gauge right here, because you can get sidetracked very easily and it can climb real fast. Or if you got it at your pound of pressure, it can drop real fast. So you want to be sure to stay focused and stay right here in front of this canner and watch this gauge right here. Make sure it stays on your pressure, whether if you're on 10 pounds of pressure or 15 pounds of pressure, which is where you have to find out, in your area, what your poundage of pressure would be, which should be into your manual of your canner. Now, I turn my burner down on 5 at this moment. But I'm also watching this, and I'm seeing it climb just a little bit. It's not in the, gone overboard yet. But I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it down just a smidge, just a little bit. Still watching this canner because, like I said, it can climb real fast. Turn it down just a little bit and keep watching it. If I see it keep climbing, I'm going to turn it down some more. So right now, I got my burner set on about 4.5. And you know what? It's still climbing. What I need to do is turn it down just a little bit. Like I said, it all depends on what's in this canner. You just got to watch this gauge here. Now, if it stays at 11 pounds pressure, that's okay, because it knows what it's doing. Okay, our timer has gone off, and now we just cut the burner off. Now, my temperature gauge was with the stove was setting at 4, and it's setting at 10 pounds of pressure, so it did perfectly. Then I'm going to reach over here and cut this timer off. So all I'm going to do is let this pot sit here. It's just going to sit here, and this pounds of pressure, 10 pounds, is going to go down to 0. Do not take this off. If you look this up, depending on the type of canner, but most of them's got a weight onto it. But they got a weight onto it. If you hear steam coming out, put it back on. Let it sit there for at least another 5 minutes until there's no steam coming out of this. You'll hear it. It'll go shh. So once this reaches down to 0, and I look this up and I hear no steam coming out, then once I take this weight off, I like to let my canner sit there for about 5 minutes because air is still coming out. It's summertime, the AC's on, and so I like to let that steam come out. And then I'm going to open this lid up. And when I open this lid up, I'm going to turn it away from my face because there's still going to be hot steam coming out, rolling out of this. So I always turn it away from my face. Another thing I want to add, since I showed you how to get these lids heated up, you put them in a pot of water and you heat them up with, really warm. Ball says I like to use ball lids, mostly ball lids, because I just like ball. It gives me a type of confidence, I guess you say. But they say that you don't have to heat these lids and rings up anymore. I showed you the way that you can do it if you feel comfortable about that. I've done it without the rings and the lids, and it's done fine. The thing of it is, they changed it. These lids and rings are good for like 18 months. So you always just check your jars, make sure they have not unsealed. While we're waiting on that to cool down, once I put my jars up here, you're going to hear a ping. The lids will seal. You let the jars sit there for 12 to 24 hours at least. I find out if I let my jars sit there for 12 to 24 hours and I just wait until this lid, it'll unseal itself. It'll be such an ease, unless you can in with some sugar in there, and then sometimes it'll stick around there and you just run it up under hot water and it'll unseal it. But I find out size, say it's 12 hours and the jar is not really want to come off. It's not coming off like that. If it's not coming off like that, I like to let it sit there until I reach over there, and I reach over there and it just so easy to come off. I believe that my experience is that when these rings are ready to come off, these rings are going to come off with ease. It's not even going to be a struggle unless you're, you know, say you're doing sweet pickles, and then that sugar is going to get around this and it can get stuck, and you just run it up on hot water and it'll come right on off. Then afterwards, after you got your rings off and you're ready to put them back into your box or store them wherever you're going to store them at, into your pantry, I always wipe my jars off with a rag. If it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing spaghetti sauce, then I'm going to take those to the sink and I'm going to give those with soap and water and get all that grease and any food particles that could possibly be on there before I store them up, because I don't want mold growing around my jars. So that's how I do it. Then I usually put them back into the box that that the jars came into, and then I can put them up or transport them or put them into the pantry, because this is what I eat. You know, this is how I eat. I don't go much to the grocery store. I grow my food. I don't like chemicals. I don't like all that stuff that they're doing. I grow my food. I put the effort and time into it, and this does take effort and time, but the end results, that is so good. So now we are going to wait for this to go down to 0, and then we're going to take those jars out. Okay, our counter has gone down to 0. Even though it went down to 0, I could still hear it like bubbling in there, like the jar is moving a little bit. I always liked, even though it goes down to 0, I always like to wait a little bit. So I've been waiting, I would say probably about 4 minutes since it stopped doing that bubbling sound, where I could hear the jars moving around a little bit and just bubbling. So that helps it to settle down and all the pressure to get out. Also, this had popped down. So once this pressure got down to 0 and this popped down, I let it sit here for a little bit. That's what I always like to do. And now we took that off, and we don't hear any steam or see any steam or feel any steam coming out. This is where you want to be careful at. So, whoops, like I said, this is where you want to be careful at. This pot is super hot. Let me move this camera over. It is super hot. And if you touch your arm on it, I promise you, by experience, it will burn you. This is where you want to make sure that you turn this lid that way. Get it away from your face, because all that heat and steam is still coming out. So even that I took this lid off, this is what I like to do. I like it to sit there for just a little bit, because we're in the summertime, AC's rolling, and it's just good wisdom. Because you've got cooler outside. This is very hot on the inside. So we're going to let it sit there for approximately, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to get these jars out. You might want to take a rag and hold it up under your jars, because you take them out, it's going to be dripping water. Now, this has got a tier onto it, which means there's jars on the top with that little metal piece up on top of the other jars. So it won't have any water, but it's good to have a rag, because that water is very hot. So we see our pink eye purple holes. They've changed colors. It's looking just like it's supposed to look. We're going to put it over here. And we're just going to take all these jars and set them over here, and we're not going to disturb them. They're going to sit here until tomorrow, and when I see that these lids come off with ease, and I take my fingers and just able to get them off with ease, then I will take the lids off, and then I will date them to when this was made, and then I will store them in their boxes or put them in my pantry to go ahead and start eating. Looking at them, I think I'm ready to eat them. So let me get all these jars out. Thank you so much for watching. We got our pink eye purple hole peas in the jars, and now we can move on to the next thing. Thanks for watching.